apologies for being late, folks. Me and Ash were discussing Clubland, which is not my area of expertise, it has to be said. But hello and welcome to your afternoon rabble here on, what day is it today? Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Yeah. Tuesday the 6th of May 2025. And I'm painting my daughter's room and I'm ready to cry. And yeah. Anyway, Ash, how are you? Is that a spiral into insignificance there?
What a sad story there. No, I'm very well, thank you. I was one of these lucky folk that had yesterday off as a bank holiday, so probably needed after Clubland, to be honest, just to recover for an hour or two. But no, got to enjoy the sunshine, so I'm doing well, thanks.
Right, everybody, get a decent question of the day in a day. We need a good one. We never had one yesterday. I want a good question of the day. Get them in, please. Ash, Clubland, right? Is that just like the old CDs and that you used to get that said Clubland on them? Is that basically what it is?
Pretty much was, to be fair. It was the likes of Cascada,
Oh, I know
Flippin'
her.
Phil,
Don't know who that is.
Becky, Bass Hunter.
I know Bass Hunter. Yeah.
So basically, it's like your childhood or your high school soundtrack on stage for
Were they
3
all
hours.
there?
They were there, they were live, but we did go for the seated section. I'm a bit too old to be in the standing section now, so I kind of compromised there and did that. So have a wee seat in between dances, and there we go. But it was good. It was a good night, I have to say.
Cascada. Is she German?
I think she is. I'm not going to sing the song, but she did evacuate the dance floor. What's the other one? Well, guys, you'll know.
No, I really don't. I remember Evacuate the Dance Floor because that was quite a poppy song.
Yeah, that's like her worst one as well, but she did a really good one that was quite famous. Every time, right, it'll come back to me. If I have to sing, I'll sing, but I don't want everyone logging off, so I'll try and avoid that if I can. If
Do
you've
you
got it in the
know?
comments, guys, that would be helpful.
Do you know somebody messaged me and asked if you were, and I don't know, I vaguely remember this person, right? Used to be a DJ on Capital called Jenny. Somebody messaged me
Mm.
and said, "Is Ash actually Jenny?" And she just doesn't want to admit that she's Jenny for the radio.
If I was a DJ, guys, you would know all about it. I'd be singing it for the rooftop. Sadly, I do not have quite as cool a job as that.
Unbelievably, I think Wolf Marshall's got the song.
Boom. Well done, Wilf. Spot on the money. That was a tune, by the way.
I
That was a
want to
very, very
know.
good tune.
I want to know how Wolf Marshall knows that.
It's also cool.
Oh, he's about 85. But anyway, let's talk some Rangers, shall we? Clubland wasn't for me. I went to a nightclub like two times in my life. I was the guy
Right.
who, at 19 years old, wanted to just stand at the bar and drink a pint. That
Makes
was,
sense.
yeah, that was it all for me. A little bit of not quite breaking news. But it would appear, and I haven't seen this, I literally just get screenshotted into the group chat Ash as we came on. Um, but Chris Jack apparently, and people in the comments can let me know if this is true, has said it is understood that the appointment will be a manager with no previous involvement with Rangers. This new era will be a new beginning. That's not really surprising with the new owners coming in, Ash, is it?
I'm probably a little bit surprised because to me that immediately obviously takes out Gerrard, but also the likes of Muscat. Because I'm
Mm.
assuming when they say no association, it isn't just managerial. It might be playing career as well. Probably makes me think the door's open a little bit for the likes of Sean Dyche, you know. I don't
Mm.
know if that's going to upset people or not, but I thought Gerrard was probably a bit of a shoo-in, to be honest, based on what they'd done with Leeds, but that's a surprise. Okay.
Yeah, actually, I completely forgot all about the Gerrard links, which I suppose then that would that means obviously
Who's left?
Barry's not getting the job. Obviously, I think we all knew that anyway, but it just
Yeah.
kind of confirms that he's not getting the job. Yep, Gerrard. Yeah, who's left? Sean. Who
Mark,
else is Marco Rosa? Sean Dyche.
that's about it, really. There's not really many other options out there. I mean, as I say, I don't know whether they've made their decision. I get the impression from what I've heard that Thelwell, although he's still working with Everton, I think they're busy behind the scenes. And Steinson, I think he's a technical director at the 49ers group. I think that's right, the football division. He's involved in some capacity there. I think he's been out making noises, but they must be pretty far down the road if they're pretty sure it's not going to be someone connected to the club. So they must have one or two candidates in mind.
Also, that rules out McInnes.
There goes our hopes dashed.
Oh God. Mark said last night it was pen to paper with Gerrard. Well, I'll make sure and tell Mark how wrong he is. And that would rule out my idea that I put into the group chat today, Ash. I don't know if you had time to see it. I was getting pelters for it, but I listened to an interview with him today, and I just thought, do you know what? I don't know. I think I would want him. Duncan Ferguson, right? Hear me out. Hear me out,
Right.
right?
Okay.
Just let me give my evidence. I thought he done a relatively decent job in the short spell he had at Everton.
Mhm.
Like he said, at Forest Green, there was nothing he could do there. And actually, at Inverness, he done a fairly decent job considering all the crap that was going on at Inverness at the time. He knows Scottish football. He gets Scottish football. He won't suffer fools gladly. And do you know that way? Sometimes something just hits your head, Ash, and you think, all
Mhm.
right, it's not going to be popular. People are going to call you stupid. It's clearly not the right move, but there's just something in it that says to me, I think it would work.
I think it would be interesting. You stuck a tenner on that and it came in. I think you'd make a few quid because I don't think he's anybody's on anybody's list. Do you know, my hesitation is that he would be like the figurehead type manager, which is what I think we thought we were going to get with Ferguson.
Hmm.
Come in, establish some standards, tell the players a few home truths, etc. I get the impression that's Duncan Ferguson's style, having not known much about his managerial career. And what I would say is this bunch of players have shown that they don't really respond to that. So yeah, I'd be shocked. Probably not somebody that I would suggest as the next Rangers manager, but why not throw his hat into the ring? Let's do it.
There's just something in my head. I mean, across the city, Neil Lennon went in there with basically no experience and done okay, right?
Mm.
Whereas we're getting proper real backing now, and I don't know. Jim was saying Control Alt Delete Martin, which is fair enough. I don't know why. It's not bait. I swear to God, it's not bait. Um, that idea is as daft as attempting to burgle his house. Yeah, maybe so. I don't know. There was just something. There was just something that I went, oh, I think it will work, but I could be totally wrong. Neil Warnock was obviously at the Old Firm game as well, Ash, and it's got people screaming and shouting for, is it what, could Neil Warnock potentially get the job? That's a worse idea than Duncan Ferguson in my eyes.
I would agree with that. I would be happier to see Duncan cross the threshold at Ibrox rather than Neil Warnock. No disrespect to Neil, I like him. I think he's an interesting character. His interviews are always worth listening to, but I think we're probably looking for someone, shall we say, a bit younger and a bit more in tune with current football ideas, would be my thoughts.
Yeah, and Gaza Buck saying he got pelters for suggesting Stephen Robinson if we were going
Mm.
down the domestic route. I think it's a snobbery thing because I think Stephen Robinson's done a fantastic job in Scottish football. I really do. But
Yeah.
is he that next level of manager that's going to win us leagues and win cups and do well in Europe?
I agree with you. I think he's done really well at St Mirren for them to get top six again. And actually, I think the results at the weekend put them in with a shout of European football, which looked quite a long way away. But for me, I think the Rangers job's too big for. I think it's a huge jump to go from St Mirren to.
Mhm.
I'd perhaps more comfortable if somebody came from the likes of Hearts or whatever. Which I know maybe it does sound a bit snobby, but I think the jump from the
Is
expectation
that a
level of
bigger
St
jump
Mirren.
than Motherwell? Because we got
Oh,
Alan McLeish from Motherwell.
yeah, I just don't look around the Scottish League just now and see anyone and think if they were in the dugout at Ibrox, they'd make a big difference. Um, and maybe you're right, maybe it is snobbery, but there's no outstanding candidates. I mean, the manager of the year was obviously the Falkirk manager, so there's nobody really in the top Scottish League that's been
Yeah,
heading things up.
yeah. Sorry, McLeish for Hibs, not Motherwell. My apologies. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of people banding about Ancelotti's name. Ancelotti will not be the next Rangers manager. That just, I mean, if that happens, I will know it might happen. So I'm not even going to go there
Don't
because
offer it. Don't offer
no,
it.
I'm not. I've learned from my mistakes. Um, I don't know. I don't think that's fair. Aldo Big Dunk has no time for Rangers anymore. I think that's slightly. completely. Just before we move on, Ash, I have to get your opinion on it. It's been spoke about since the Old Firm. We spoke about it in both shows yesterday. So I'm going to ask you, were you offended by the tifo on Sunday, Ash?
Yeah, so bad I've just about recovered from it. No, in all seriousness, I'll be honest, when I saw it unveiled in the stadium, I did laugh because I pretty much immediately knew that there would be some furore because it was quite to the point. I thought it was quite clever and quite cheeky the way that they dealt with it in terms of the wording, etc. But I knew that it would annoy all of the usual population of Scotland. Um, it's completely been blown out of proportion. It's almost like when Rangers don't get scalped on Old Firm days, there has to be some sort of controversy surrounding the game, and it's usually aimed at us. Um, as a Rangers fan, I've seen banners that were much more offensive. I've seen severed heads of our players being printed onto a flag and waved around the stadium. I've seen slogans around "kill all," a name that you would use for Rangers fans, etc. So I'm sorry. I just think the whole thing has just become a little bit ridiculous, and it's as usual blown over within 48 hours. It'll be condemned to the history books. But it's just a shame that after a big game like that, we spend all our time having to deal with that rather than talk about the football.
Yeah, and we shall because they tried to talk about it on Talksport this morning. Um, Jim White, Simon Jordan, and they just went round in circles and made themselves look pretty stupid. And the
Just
one
sorry.
thing, sorry, on you go.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say sorry on that point, Martin. And you said I don't want to go too far down the road on it, but what I find quite incredible is we've seen quite a lot of mental gymnastics this week. When you think about, there was a certain band last week that were being kind
Hmm.
of held up as being, the right to say what they want to say, freedom of speech, etc. And those same people that defended that right are now very, very upset with a picture and a few words on a tifo. So the hypocrisy is off the chart. We've come to expect it now, but it is tedious and it does get a bit tiresome. I just want to enjoy and celebrate Scottish football and the fan culture, which for 95% of it is positive. But there's just always something negative that has to come out of it against Rangers.
A picture is scarier than words, apparently.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
But
Richard Darwin is
depends who's flying the picture, to be
well,
fair.
yes, of course. If it was the other way about, then the picture would be absolutely fine and the words would be awful. Yes,
Yes.
I get it. Martin, I wouldn't be surprised with American owners. It might be Jesse Marsh, who used to manage Leeds. I don't know how I would feel about Jesse Marsh, to be honest, Ash.
He did okay at Leeds, but from memory, is he not the manager of an international team
Canada.
now? Canada, right? So, and they've obviously the World Cup's coming up 2026. So I would think it would be quite difficult to pry him away from there, to be honest.
You can do both.
The World Cup. Yeah, oh, well, that would be interesting. Yeah.
Mm. I
He
mean, I
wouldn't be
was,
top of my list.
listen, when I played football manager and I managed Rangers, occasionally I would go and manage a national team at the same time. So it can be done.
Did
Absolutely.
you, were you successful though? Were you able to juggle both jobs?
I've only ever been successful. I've always been crap at it, right? And then there was one season I made up this random tactic and I won everything, including the Champions League with Rangers. And I think that's the day I retired. Um,
Well, if I was you, Martin, I'd be dusting off that CV, sending it to
yes,
Ibrox way, because you just don't know. You just don't know.
yes. Absolutely not, Cammy. I'll be honest, I've not seen any good comments from you, mate, or I would have brung them up. So you need to get better comments in there. And Paul, I didn't see your question. So put your question back in. Please, if you please. Right. Two players I want to talk about, Ash. Cortez and Danilo. Um, both been said by Barry Ferguson that they're not doing enough. Now, both long term injuries. Is it
Hmm.
a surprise to you that they have now been involved with the squad for long enough that they should have had more minutes? But it would appear that behind the scenes they're not doing enough.
So there's definitely a red flag for me when you look at Sunday, when two of your front three is changed, and of those two initial substitutions, none of them are Cortez and Danilo.
Mhm.
Um, that speaks volumes. I know that Danilo did eventually get on the pitch, but that was when Diamandi went down. Um, so there's clearly something happening in the training ground that Barry doesn't like. Because if you think about it, over the last few weeks, there's been games where we've been really, really poor offensively. We've been chasing goals to either get back into the game or to win games. And very rarely has he really given Cortez or Danilo meaningful minutes. So to me, from the outside looking in, I think I don't agree with it for different reasons. Cortez, we've made the commitment to keep him next year. And Danilo's obviously on significant wages and what have you. So for me, I would have them playing, and if Barry's not having them playing, there's something not quite right that doesn't stack up. But to me, the two of them have got to be in the team for every minute that they can until the end of the season, because we need to know what we've got going into next year.
Especially Cortez, for me, that was exactly the point I was going to bring to you next. That we need to see this boy play some form of football, Ash, because we are obligated to pay a lot of money for him in the summer. Now, it's all fine and dandy and well saying, right, but there's a takeover coming in, there's billionaires coming into the club, it's only 4 million. We still need to be sensible with our cash. And having a player who's not played for 2 years, who you're obligated to buy, isn't sensible.
No, and we're going to be in hopefully a really kind of interesting situation where it's not going to be that we don't have the funds, it's that we're not going to be able to spend them because of the financial fair play rules. So you're right, we've got to be really careful about how we invest our money. Cortez deal is done, there's nothing we can do about that now. And the reality is, this guy, he's not played a lot of football. When he came obviously over from, I believe it was Colombia to Lens in France, he only played a handful of games for them before they loaned him out to us at the start of last year. So he's not really had a lot of football. He's now missed a lot of football at quite an important development kind of stage of his career. He's a young guy, he needs to be on the pitch. And yet he's been fit for the last wee while and he's hardly had a kick. So I don't really get the thinking, to be honest. I'm not giving him a chance, because whether it's Barry or not, this guy's going to be part of the first team squad next year. We spent too much money for it to be any other way.
I've got an absolutely cracking question of the day.
Excellent.
Although it's more a yes or a no answer. So there's not really, you can't really dive too much into it. But I seen it from multiple man and I thought, yeah, we need to do it.
It's the question, it's the question, it's the question of the day. If you love a good question, then we're coming your way with the question of the day. Question of the day.
It's a bit of a strange one. If you had a time machine and an invisibility cloak, would you attend your own funeral?
I mean,
It's
you'd
deep,
have
that.
to. Because who's there? Who's crying? What stories are they telling? Did they play the music that you wanted them to play? Is somebody stitched you up? Well, I think you'd have to, just for a nosy.
Mm, yeah, what's the atmosphere like in the function after it? Do people even care that you're gone, or are they just there for the steak pie?
In the free bar, potentially, you're right. That could be quite the draw.
There'll be no free bar at my funeral. No, absolutely no free bar. People will
No
pay.
having it.
No. Have you ever seen that episode of Still Game where they find out they've paid more into their funeral than and they get money back?
No.
I'm paying my basic funeral. My kids are getting nothing. Absolutely nothing.
No bells and whistles, just get the job done. Functional. There we go.
Bit morbid, but I probably. Yeah. What's the shit question of the day? Way to bring the mood down. What's the wee? It was multiple man. Trev's not happy, but he's still hungover for Clubland. That's grim
Absolutely.
as hell, that question. Yeah. Well saying, I would attend the wake, but 100% want to be at the service to see who turns up. Yeah, Wolf would take off the invisibility cloak and go and talk to everybody. That's what Wolf would do. Yeah. Well, there we go. How did I die? I don't know. You're still alive. Oh,
There was
well,
that, sorry to digress here, the funny episode of Friends. I don't know if you like Friends, but there's
yes,
someone not arranged their own funeral just to see who would turn up,
yes.
and then sort of jumps out and says surprise.
Do,
That would be quite funny.
you know what my daughter's name is?
Mm.
Phoebe.
So you do watch Friends then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's very much like her. And but do you know what's
Excellent.
weird? My daughter's name's Phoebe, and my missus' name's Lisa.
That is weird.
That
So you're
is
like a
weird.
super Friends fan.
Yeah, yeah. For those of you who don't know, the actress who plays Phoebe is called Lisa. So just in case people didn't know that, I'm sure everybody does. Though. I'm pretty sure everybody does. Just going back to that previous conversation, are you more surprised in a way at Danilo? Because as we've seen how upset he was not to go on the park a few weeks ago, he was going off his nut, he wanted to play. Does it surprise you then that it's been touted that he's not doing enough?
A wee bit, because I mean, we've seen more of Danilo than Cortez, although Danilo's had a lot of time out injured as well, but we have seen a bit more of him. And if you look at, Igaman, sort of around the turn of the year when I think he was in his purple patch, Danilo was the one he was playing with. And I think that he's the perfect foil for Igaman. So if I'm Danilo and I'm looking at some of the forward play around me, and when we've been chasing a goal, I don't really understand why I'm not being given the opportunity. He is back. He's fit now. He's one of the top 5 earners at the club, I believe, from what I hear. He's earning a decent sum. So he should be getting an opportunity on the park, particularly, as I say, when we're changing things in game and we're bringing on other players, the likes of Hadji, who, no disrespect, I like Hadji, but Hadji is likely not going to be here next season.
Mhm.
We should be giving those minutes to the likes of Danilo, who probably is, and has a chance to be part of the future. So, yeah, I agree with that comment there. I think the excuse they've both had long-term injuries doesn't really wash for me. I don't know why that's been trotted out as the line. I'd prefer Barry was just honest and just say they're not doing enough in training to earn a spot.
Yeah. Rachel Green, what a woman, according to London. Right. Stephen Robertson with a super chat. Champions League watch along happening this week. Well, there is definitely not one tonight. I can assure you of that because I'm painting. So there is 100% not a Champions League watch along tonight. The member show is on tonight at 7 o'clock, and then once that's done, it will be uploaded onto Patreon. I will see if I can do one tomorrow. I will see what's happening with that. But of course, tomorrow night, myself and David Edgar are back for the critically acclaimed Martin and David show. I don't know who critically acclaimed it. I've just made that up, but it should be critically acclaimed. So that's on tomorrow night at 7 p.m. As well. But thank you for the support, Stephen, my friend. Right, I have to ask this question, Ash, because Paul's asked it and he tells us how many times. He's raging that I've not brought it up yet because I keep forgetting. So, for the 4th time, right, would you take Katic back as a replacement for Balogun? Knows the club, younger, wants to come back, knows the league in pace. Remember, Balogun was a backup. So, Ash, it would appear that he seems to be doing quite well at Plymouth Argyle. Would you take Katic back, or do we need to stop looking backwards?
I mean, I think Katic maybe didn't get the fairest track of the whip, to be honest. You're right. I think he's been really good for Plymouth. I watched him in the Liverpool game, the FA Cup game, where he was fantastic. Big physical presence, which I think we've lacked at times. The kind of leader on the party, you can see him screaming at people to get in position, etc. So for me, if the transfer funds were right, I would be open to it. My worry is now, because of how well he's done for Plymouth, I don't know whether we could afford to bring him back in. I don't know what kind of fee they'd be looking for. There you go. So
He's been injured at Plymouth. Yeah, do you know what? I don't want anything can happen when a player comes to a football club if they've never had an injury in their life. But we need to stop bringing in players who have got history of injuries.
yeah, no, but we haven't. To be fair, Katic maybe had a few injuries when he was up here. I hadn't realised he's been injured down at Plymouth, as I say, and I was kind of checking in on he was doing pretty well for them around the FA Cup time. But yeah. So who's
Plymouth,
your
who is he?
sorry?
Who's he at? I can't remember. Actually, that's bad, isn't it? But yeah, he's only on loan. Is it a Croatian team? Is it?
I don't know where he went after us, to be honest. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Can't remember. But anyways, we will finish up on the B team. Well, not quite the B team, because there is no B team anymore. But Jean-Louis Waifeko has sealed a permanent move to Exeter. Ash. This one again was no surprise. Again, a young player who came in and showed a wee bit of promise, got a wee bit of time in the first team, but his career now lies somewhere else.
I mean, no disrespect to the chap. He obviously, I think he made one appearance for Rangers, came in from Leicester, was in and around the first team squad. I remember him being part of a few match day squads. didn't kick on. But I think the point you've just made probably is part of the reason. The structure we've had for B teams, youth teams, development teams over the last few years has been in a constant state of flux. We've had, technical directors in, youth academy directors in, sporting directors in. We don't have a consistent league that the players play in. The structure's not been right. So I think it's really hard for these young guys to step up and stake a claim if they're not given the right support. However, that being said, and again, I mean no disrespect to the chap, he is going down to League One in a team who I think are sort of mid to bottom part of the table. So
By all accounts, he's
um,
been really good, though. No, I don't know how much that means compared to
he
playing for us.
has, yeah, no, he has. The reports are good, but he has been injured. He's had a few pretty big injuries this season. He's been out. I think he's only played a handful of games, maybe 13, 14 games. So from our history, I'm not sure that we would really want someone that's injury prone. But by all accounts, I think he's got all the tools, and the noises coming out about him when he was at Ibrox was that he had a real chance of going on and being a really good player. It's not worked out for him. And from my point of view, I think the writing was on the wall when he went out on loan and there was an option to buy within that. To me, that says it was never really a development loan. It was more about putting him in the shop window and giving him a chance to sign somewhere else. So, yeah.
Yeah, and just finally, Rangers on tour saying, with us scrapping the B team, we need to build relationships with sides like Exeter, who have done well, selling players on. We will have a sell-on clause. I suppose that's actually a fair point. I know that we need to start striking up better relationships with clubs in Scotland because, like I say, there will be no more real B team. There won't be. I mean, we didn't this season anyway play in any sort of league. It was all friendlies, so I think it's going to be a case that Rangers and Celtic are following the same kind of model. Their biggest and best and brightest coming through the academies will be loaned out. So I suppose doing stuff like this and striking up partnerships with clubs like Exeter is a good thing.
Yes, and I think obviously as well we had Birmingham. I know it's not youth players, but we've sent players down there on loan that have worked out well for them. So I think it's good for us to have those connections down south. What I find, or what I will find quite interesting, is what Thelwell does with the youth side of the club. I mean, his priority has to be on the first team for obvious reasons. That's going to take up his focus for a while. But long term, I do think we have to think about what we're doing there because we're really not giving ourselves the opportunity to bring these young players through. And there's a lot of really good Scottish kids not coming anywhere near Rangers, going to other Scottish clubs or going down south. So I hope
If you had a son, Ash, right, and he was 15, 16, and he was talked about as being, on the next, not big, just a good player, and Rangers came calling, taking your Rangers tinted specs off, but the best thing for your son, would you advise him to go to Rangers?
No, because I couldn't demonstrate to him, look at the pathway to the first team. You could demonstrate a lot of promising young players that have either moved on before they've made it to the first team squad because they've been so good, they've been lured down south. And then a lot of other players that have kind of just bombed out and their careers have kind of petered out and they've ended up at lower league clubs in Scotland. So no, I think that if you're sitting across, as you said there, from a top prospect, why would they come to us at the moment? So I do hope that Thelwell puts something in place to make us attractive again to youth players.
Yeah, something has to be done anyway because it's not been good for a long, long time. Yeah, okay, we shall leave it there for today. But like I say, we're back tonight at 7 p.m. T1000 is hosting. He's not long back from holiday. Sunbed. Holiday. He's not long back for the sunbeds, so he will look tanned and primed and ready to go. Rumours are as well he spent some time in Turkey. I don't know how true that is, but that's the rumours about the T1000. So he's back tonight at 7 p.m. Make sure that you like and subscribe. We are now exclusively on YouTube. You can find clips of shows across our socials, but we are exclusively on YouTube. Multiple Man, I would have to say probably yes.
Multiple Man, I need to start sending you cash for this because you're very complimentary. It's very nice.
If Carlsberg did women podders, it was Carlsberg, wasn't it? Probably the best. Aye. I'm sure it was. Because you're not allowed to say the best.
He brought us all down with the funeral question and he just turned it right around there with a really positive, upbeat message. So that's lovely. Love that, Multiple Man.
It's not usual for him to be nice. So I think he feels guilty about his terrible question of the day. Yeah, yeah, he is a big suit, Paul. You're absolutely right. You're just raging. You never seen it first. But yeah, okay, folks. Right, well, we'll leave it there. I need to get back to painting. Ash needs to get back to work. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe. Make sure the members join us tonight at 7 p.m. If you're not a member, links in the description. If you want to watch live, it's YouTube. If you're happy to listen back on audio, it's Patreon. Whatever you fancy, take your choice. Thank you, Ash. Thank you, everybody, and we shall speak very, very soon.